Hello, I would like to discuss some problems of referencing items found in RILM. So actually one of my students found two items and I want to discuss both. So one of the uh, pieces of literature is this, using music learning theory in private piano lessons. So in the realm, it says here toward the top of the record, it says document type, and it's very important to look at what it says. It says article in a collection of essays. Well, collection of essays means it's a book, right? So that means this is a chapter in a book. This is the author. I'm not sure if the middle name here is misspelled because it looks like the first letter is misspelled, or maybe not, IOT, but you would have to, or maybe that's supposed to be an L. So maybe we want to, in fact, Google this name. We can do that right now. So I will just type it into the search bar and say music, and it's indeed an uppercase I. Okay. Um, so, anyways, if you scroll further down, of course, there's an abstract. But then it says collected work. In collected work, that's basically the book in which this chapter appears. So it looks like this is the title of the book, and the book is published by GIA Publications. That's the publisher's name. Here's the city and state. In the United States, here's the year. Here are the page numbers on which pages of this book appears. So we have almost all information that is necessary to reference this, but there is one item that is missing, that is always missing in the realm, because it doesn't list it. That's the editor's name. So whenever there is an article in a collection of essays, then this is the book title, but the book is being edited by somebody, and RILM doesn't tell us. So now RILM has a separate entry on this entire book, and I simply, where it says link to this item, I can click on this, and it will pull up the entire book. And in fact, there it says authors. Now you see here, it looks like three authors, but there are only two editors. The foreword was written by Edwin Gordon, but he is not an editor, and that's very important for the purpose of referencing this book, because you only list the editors. You don't list the person who wrote the foreword. But I, in fact, always recommend not to use the bibliographic information found on the entire book from RILM, but to look it up in WorldCat. So if I go to my library website and look for WorldCat, you have to access it through your library, so you have the subscription, or you use the public version of it, which is fine, but the subscription version is a little bit more powerful and works better. So if I now grab the title of this book, so I'm not looking for the article title, I'm looking for the book title. So this is the article title, and it is published inside this book, and I want to find and verify the editors of that book. So I type this into WorldCat, and the development practical application of music learning theory. So lots of other things come up. But this looks like it. Now, if we're in WorldCat, we want to pay attention to the number that it says here, libraries worldwide own this item. Why is this important? Because this book can actually be cataloged in different ways by different libraries, and it would show up several times in WorldCat, but we want as high number as possible. So we basically can say, well, many libraries catalog the book like that, so it's more likely correct. And actually, RILM in first search always lists the higher ones that more libraries own, meaning cataloging like this, listed first. So in WorldCat, you have to scroll down a little bit, look under responsibility, and it says here edited by Maria Runfola and Cynthia Crum-Taggart, right? So that means those are the two editors. You can verify 2005 Chicago GIA publications, and that's what it said here in RILM, but the editor's name it didn't list. So anyways, once you have that, you can write your entry, and I have it prepared. I wanted to have it on a separate screen. So here, Richardson. So now this is an APA style. Because many of my students use APA, I personally prefer Chicago, and most of journals or books that I'm publishing in, they use Chicago style. But anyways, if you need to indent, then you can also do an indent. But here we have the author of the article or the chapter, the first and middle initial, the year, the title of the article or the chapter, and then it is published in, and those are the editors, M. Runfola and C.C. Taggart. Those are editors, comma, the book title in italicization, then the page numbers on which it appears, and the publisher's name. Okay. Now, one other much more difficult item is here, this. Reports from the 2018 Group Piano and Piano Pedagogy Forum. It says here, document type, it's a book, a symposium. The authors, well, then it says editor. And then it says e-journal. Oh, so my student who found this was actually interested in just this article, Beating Anxiety. So this seems to have been written by Jacob Clark, Beating Anxiety, and it's in this work, which RILM says it's a book, but of course if we look under source, it says MTNA e-journal. There's a volume and issue number and the page numbers. So what happens very often is that conference proceedings, like papers presented at a symposium, conference proceedings may be published as a separate book, but sometimes are published in a special issue or volume of a journal, and that seems to be the case here. So of course I can click on MTNA journal here. Let's see what happens. Then it pulls up everything that RILM indexes that was published in the MTNA journal. That doesn't help me too much. Now, if I click on full text here, then it also just pulls up everything that has ever been published in the MTNA journal. So this is problematic, but then of course I'm interested, or my student was interested, just in this article, and there is another link, and this link is to the RILM entry of this particular article. So RILM treated it like a book, and RILM has an entry for what it thinks it's a book, not it thinks, somebody who indexed it. So it has a separate entry for the book, which we looked earlier at, and for the article, for the specific article. So now if I click on PDF full text here, then it is actually this particular article. It says here, reported by Jacob Clark, beating anxiety, presented by Noah Kageyama. Okay, so it looks like, and if you start reading it, it looks like this is a discussion of a paper presented by Kageyama on beating anxiety, but a discussion, or a discussion by Jacob Clark. So, and here we find the author's name as well. So how do we reference this? In this case, it is an article in a collection that is a special issue of a journal. RILM treats it like a book, but technically it's not a book, it's a journal. It's the MTNA journal. And I think it's best to reference it as an article in a journal. If we just take the main title, then the author really is Jacob Clark, but we need to make sure that Noah Kageyama is actually mentioned here, so that is the subtitle. So I've prepared already something, but I realized that it was not quite correct. So anyways, I prepared here in APA style, Clark, J, 2018 November. So for journals, APA style suggests to include the month if it lists one. And now this I would actually now want to change, beating anxiety, and then presented by as a subtitle by Noah Kageyama. This is the article that is written by J. Clark. It's published in the MTNA journal in volume 10 in issue 2 and on pages 2 to 3. And since it's an e-journal, I include the link to the journal. Now, the question is, how would I list it if I actually would list it as a chapter in a book? So I thought about this, and you would not find this in any style guide really, because it's a relatively unusual situation where you have a collection of essays. It's like a book, but it's published in one volume of a journal. But I think I would reference it like this, but I need to I made a spelling error here. Okay, so I would say Clark J, just the year, and I believe the period must be inside. Actually, not so sure. I'm not a specialist in APA style. Maybe it was correct. So this is the article title, and this is published in a book edited by S. Garcia. We saw that in RILM originally. In the original that the student found here. Now that was the so-called book, the collection, edited by Susan Garcia, right? So back to my Word file. So here's the title of the book, right? Now we are looking at an article that is on these pages, and then it's followed by a comma and the publisher name, in this case the organization MTNA. And then I would include in brackets issue 10.2 of MTNA e-journal, and then include the website address. So this way it is clear what this is, that this is an article in this book, but this book really is a special issue of the MTNA e-journal. So which one would I prefer? Well, I would prefer the first one here, just listed as an article in the journal. Of course, then it doesn't list the editor and this reports from this. This could be interesting in information. So if you're in the piano pedagogy world, this might be interesting information to some readers. So in that case, you might decide to reference it like that to give more information. Uh, anyways, so it's not easy to actually figure out how to reference a certain item, but it is very important to figure out what something is. And even if it says it's a book, it might be something else, or it might be really what is treated like a book but in a special issue of a journal. Anyways, um, I hope you enjoyed this and learned some more, that it's not always so easy to do a reference. Bye.